Welcome back to Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today we have a very exciting guest. He's an up-and-coming rising talent in the IFBB. He had his pro debuts this year. We're going to talk to him a little bit about that and how it went. The man I'm talking about is Patrick Moore.
Yeah, how's it going, Dave?
I like the shirt, Dream Killer. Where'd you get that?
Man, from my man Phil Heath, man. You know, got quite a few of these shirts, man. You know, so it's really cool to be with those guys and be able to have some cool clothes to train in.
Yeah, now you're friends with Phil Heath. How did that come about? Because you don't hear many people saying, you know what, I'm really tight with Phil Heath. He's got a very small group of friends that he deals with. He doesn't really know everyone, that type of thing. He's very guarded. How did you become friendly with him, and how is that, that gone? Because I know he's a bit of a mentor to you.
Yeah, so, I did a show back in 2014, and I won that show overall. And I had a chance to chat with him a little bit then. That was my first time actually meeting him in person. And so, of course, I started bodybuilding because of him. I was a former basketball player and boxer. So when I actually saw him in 2011, and I decided that, okay, bodybuilding is pretty cool. It's something that I could do. And I kind of had my sights set on, okay, I want to be Mr. Olympia. So I saw him in person. I saw him backstage, and I was like, all right, so I want to be that guy. And so I had a chance to talk with him a little bit, but of course it was super busy. He was guest posing in that show. So time went on, obviously I kept up with him and, I followed his career and stuff. And just shortly before the USA's last year, I mentioned him a couple of times on social media, and I actually came in contact with him and met him formally again, in a better setting, more private setting this year at the Phil Heath Classic in Dallas. So we had dinner, with him and his lovely fiance, and had a chance to really sit down with him and get to know him as a person, and vice versa. And since then, man, I mean, it's really kind of surreal to go back and forth with him, and him to kind of guide me, and because that's the guy that I idolized when I started. So, recently, he picked me up with Gifted Athletics with the clothing. So it's cool, man. I memean, he's an amazing person. I mean, he does have a small circle, but I mean, that guy is, I don't know, many people that know him personally, but, you really couldn't have a better mentor than him.
A lot of people, I think Phil's a misunderstood guy because, I've sat down with him and talked to him for like a couple hours at like shows and stuff like that where we were just kind of like alone. And I had a very, I had great talks with him, and I thought he was a really cool guy and down to earth. And then, his persona in the public, the way he comes off, people think he's arrogant and that he's cocky, but, I think it's really just confidence. Would you say that you have a different, I guess, understanding of who Phil is as opposed to what his persona is in social media?
Oh, yeah. I mean, hugely. I mean, it's vastly different as in, for him, I remember when he turned pro, when he first won Olympia in 2011, everyone that I could think of was pro Phil Heath, so it's crazy that over the years, that of course, if he's winning, he's going to have a target on his back. So, he's 7-time champ now, I'm pretty sure he'll go on to win a few more. But, at some point, I guess when people have said enough, and I guess when you bite back, and you start to rebuttal or, say things and people can take that as arrogance. But I mean, if you're the best in the world, you're the best in the world. I mean, I don't really see that you can, chime that off as being arrogant. I mean, he's really speaking the truth that if he's the best, he's the best. But, on the flip side of that, talking to him personally, you don't get that arrogant demeanor from him at all. I mean, he's done tremendous things that, a lot of stuff that people don't even know that he doesn't even, advertise, so he does a lot for the community. Obviously, I'm just getting started, and this guy has we actually sat down and had an hour-and-a-half phone conversation. He could have been on about his day doing whatever, and I'm new here. So for him to take that amount of time out and talk to me and to tell me, the type what I should be working towards, what I can kind of expect if I want to be at that top level. I mean, I don't think he's arrogant at all. I mean, he's a phenomenal athlete, and he proves that time and time again on and off stage.
Do you, as his friend, do you like to say to him, like sometimes when he gets crazy and he starts addressing the social media guys, do you like to just say, hey, Phil, what are you doing? Leave these guys alone. Who cares about these idiots?
There's been a couple times that, I've caught his comments, and I'll comment on there, and I just applaud him because the trolls are out, man, and they go on there and they say all the different things that they want to say, and he gets attacked, just crazy. I mean, I see the comments that go at him, and he's become an expert at just using that to fuel himself to be better. I mean, that's it's unfortunate that people are like that, but I mean, he's a great athlete, and he told me himself, you just got to expect that. It's going to come with it.
Now, you turned pro at the USA in the super heavyweight class last year at 232 pounds. You're about 10 pounds heavier this year for your pro debut. New York was a bit of a disappointment at 13th place. I actually thought you should have been higher. Kristen Cito and I talked about this on our TV show and in the analysis that we thought you should have been a little higher. You came back to the Cal and you were 8th place there, which a lot of people also thought you could have been a little higher. But I think you finally made an impression on the judges. Everyone knows who you are now. Would you consider this a successful rookie season for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For me, I tend to not try to judge success, not only just my placing, but how I come into the show. And, working with Kristen Cito, I mean, the difference was like from 1 to 10. I mean, my conditioning was great. I was more full in California. So, I definitely appeared harder there. But I mean, in both showings, I thought they were tremendous. I accomplished a goal that I wanted to accomplish. I mean, it was really me kind of going in. I knew it was deep waters at the New York Pro. I mean, I did not want to choose, I guess you could say an easier show. Not that any pro show is easy, but I knew the talent that was going into the New York Pro, and I wanted to go in and line up with those guys like, hey, I'm here now, and I'm only going to get better. So
were you disappointed at New York? Because, like I said, a lot of people thought you should have been higher. Your conditioning was really good there. Was that, when you walked away from the stage, were you, dejected a little bit?
Yeah, I was. I mean, because, you go there and of course you're hoping for a top 5, a first call out. And when that didn't happen and then the second call out went by, I was like, okay, it's come on now, let me get out there. And when it finally, got my chance and I went out there, I have to, of course, display a certain level of professionalism. So I wasn't going to let that disappointment show through on stage. But, for me, it's not unfamiliar territory because, I did the Miami Nationals. That was my first attempt at turning pro, and I actually placed 16th at that show.
Wow.
So what happened there, I didn't know what bodybuilding entailed, so once I had a little more experience and I learned from the guys that have done it, and I actually applied myself, harder, then I came back and I got first place. So for me, that 13th place is just like, okay, cool, no biggie, because wait till I come back, Right. So.
How long have you been competing now?
I'm in my 5th year.
Okay, you're still a beginner.
Yeah, so I'm still pretty new. It's been, this was my first prep. Well, actually, the last prep for the USA's was, me really trying to, give it 100%. And, because I didn't have Chris with me at the last prep for the USA's. Right. So I really learned what it was to be a bodybuilder and actually prep hard, for my pro debut. So it's I love it. I mean, like I said, it's only been a short amount of time, but I plan to be here for a long time.
What's your relationship? I noticed you were wearing the Labrada, shirt. I know you and Hunter Labrada, Lee Labrada's son, are friends. How did that relationship come about? Is that because you're in the Houston area?
Yeah. So funny story with that. I actually saw Lee before bodybuilding was even a thought, because I was boxing then. And someone had told me they were having a contest and searching for athletes. That was a good long, probably in 2007. Okay. And so I knew who Lee was, far before I started competing. And so what happened was I was a general manager at LA Fitness down here in Houston. And Hunter would come in and train from time to time. Of course, I knew him. We introduced, we met. But he did his thing and I did my thing at separate times. And in 2015, after that, things, like I said, went left in nationals. I didn't do so well. Once I stepped off stage, Lee and Hunter were there. Of course, they were supporting Sergio, because that's when Sergio turned pro. And so that's when I formally met Lee. And then coming back home to Houston, they extended me a sponsorship, and I started training with Hunter. He was doing his first show at the time. And so we kind of, just kind of became training partners, whenever we could connect, from then.
Sure.
And Lee has just been awesome. I mean, he's there for whatever I need him. You know, anytime I can pick up the phone and call him, ask him for some advice. And, you know, like I said, being sponsored by his company, you know, I have access to some great supplements and stuff like that. So it's really like being a part of a family with those guys.
Yeah, no, that's great that you have that relationship with them, and that you're right in town with them. So it makes you kind of like the perfect matchup. Talk to me a little bit about, you know, as a bodybuilder, we know it's very expensive to compete. I know you have a little bit of a sponsorship with those guys, but obviously you work. You're at Raw Gym right there. We can see it in the background, a little sign on the wall. What do you do there, and how have you parlayed bodybuilding into making yourself more money?
So, yeah, here I just do personal training, and I started that, you know, before I was really 100% going with the bodybuilding thing. So yeah, it can be expensive, you know, with the food and the subs and stuff like that. But, you know, I have managed to land a pretty good clientele to where, you know, when I go and compete, and if I can carry myself in good shape year round, which I do because of bodybuilding, it makes it pretty easy to market myself as an excellent personal trainer. So I haven't had that big, you know, sponsorship deal come through yet where I can just eat, sleep, and train. But, you know, I'm sure it'll come, you know, at some point.
Yeah, sometimes it's better that you're actually doing something, because sometimes when you don't do anything, you sometimes waste time. So it's kind of good that you're busy. It keeps you, you know, focused, I think, especially earlier in your career. Now, moving forward, looking forward into the future at this point, what's the next mark? I know right now you're trying to grow, put on more size, especially on the legs. What's the, have you figured out a game plan for 2019?
So I'll be going back and forth with Chris here shortly, but I definitely will be returning to that New York Pro stage because I'm not a guy that lets something like that go by so easily and, you know, not go back to finish what I started, because that's kind of unfinished business. You know, for me, if I set a goal and I didn't accomplish it, I will be back. So possibly maybe the Indy Pro or a show earlier next year, but I will take this, you know, time, because that's the thing is, you know, with boxing, there was never any focus on, you know, we didn't focus when we strength trained. There wasn't any focus on growing the legs. I mean, you can't box and bodybuild at the same time. So when I started bodybuilding, I had to let that go. And so the legs were the one thing that had to come up. So I can, you know, say with confidence that, you know, I do respond to strength training very well. So I have been able to improve show to show and get, you know, more and more size on my legs. So that's the focus as it was from, you know, the USA's to my pro debut, and they improved a lot. And so they'll definitely improve a lot more with having Chris, you know, kind of guide me going into next season.
How far did you go in boxing? I mean, how good were you, and why did you say, hey, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore?
It's, you know, it's a long road. I mean, it's definitely one of those deals where you can be very good, which I was, and you're going to only go as far as, I guess, your promotional team can kind of carry you, because it's kind of like you know, it's in that aspect, you know, kind of like with bodybuilding. If you come from, you know, maybe a well-known last name or maybe a well-known training camp or something, you're going to get kind of that immediate attention, and everyone will want to pull you up in the ranks. And for boxing, I mean, there's so many guys in the amateur ranks that it takes a while to kind of climb up, and, you know, you may have 20, 30, you know, pro fights before you even have halfway decent, you know, payday. Right. And I mean, it's very, you know, it's time consuming, just like bodybuilding. But, you know, it was an easy transition into bodybuilding, because it is one of those sports where you are only going to get out of it what you put into it. You know, nothing more than that.
Did you like boxing?
Oh yeah. I mean, I loved it because it was a chess match. You know, it's not one of those deals where you can just go in there. And I was the biggest. I was at the top of my weight class. You know, at heavyweight. You know, I boxed at 202. So it was. You can't just go in there, you know, crazy. You have to have a game plan. Right. And it was not only you had to overcome the other guy physically, but mentally as well. So it was cool to get in there with guys that were trained as much as I was, and, you know, you were just taught to go in there and take the other guy out and then get back to work. So I love it. I mean, if I could still do it now, I would, but, you know, physically that would be a stretch.
No, I can imagine. What was your record?
It was, man, I had out of 100 fights, 10 losses.
Oh, okay. Now, as far as boxing goes, did you have aspirations of going to the Olympics or doing anything like that? Or was it just like, I'm going to get into the pros and I'm going to start trying to make some money.
Yeah, no, it was definitely it's something that I wanted to go to the Olympics because, guys that tend to go to the Olympics and do well, because, of course, you're fighting with other countries, coming out of that, that's you're going against the best of the best.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you go to the Olympics, it's kind of like going to a national bodybuilding competition. It's like you get to see some of the best guys, and then you go to the next level. So I didn't want to just jump that because once you have 10 fights, in boxing, you can go to the pro ranks. I mean, and you can have those 10 fights anywhere. So It was definitely, I wanted to go and, be one of those guys that go down in history that earns a gold or silver medal or what have you, and then go into the pro ranks, with that.
But, it's tough when you're good at two sports to have to pick one or the other. But like you said, they're really not, you can't do both at the same time. It's impossible. So
no.
I have to believe that bodybuilding was more in your blood than maybe boxing.
Yeah, it was the one thing after, coming from doing boxing, it was like, you had to put everything into bodybuilding. And it was the eating was different, the training was different. So I had to make a choice, and I just loved being in the gym. And I mean, from the time I was 17 years old, I just liked to lift weights. So I eventually I was just like, all right, well, I'm going to hang up the gloves and I'm just going to go for what I feel like I can, move up, and that's what happened. I moved up in bodybuilding faster than I was moving up, in boxing. So it was an easy choice at the end of the day. I just kind of followed what I love.
Yeah, no, smart. Now, I understand also that you have been one of the few people that I know in the bodybuilding world who's had a relationship with their high school sweetheart their whole life. Is that tough in the bodybuilding world to have, or is it easier because it gives you stability?
If you're mentally strong, it's easier. I can't say it's easy, but it's definitely tough. I've been with her going on 10 years, and because she has whatever I go through, she has to go through it. So if I'm on prep, even though she doesn't have to eat the food or do whatever, we're still limited in what we can do. There's no going out to restaurants as often. There's not, traveling is a little bit limited. So, and then of course I drag her around everywhere I go. So if there's an expo or a show, she's going, and most of the time she's willing to go. And other times, if she's tired or she's not up for it, then I just go do what I have to do and come back. But it can be taxing because when I'm frustrated or I'm hungry, sometimes she won't understand that, and she can take that as me having a problem with her or just anything with the relationship, and that's just not the case. You just have to be open and communicate with the person that, hey, this is just what I have to do for right now. This is some time that I need to commit to myself, and ultimately it'll be betterment for us. So if you can do that and the other person is, it helps when they have something going on. She's a therapist. So, she did the whole school thing and got her master's and whatnot. So whenever I start acting crazy, then she knows.
She can analyze you. And that's how she's crazier probably.
Yeah.
It's funny, bodybuilding, when you're in the bodybuilding world, especially the pro bodybuilding world, you see more countries and more great places than you could ever have imagined in your entire life. But the only part of it you see is usually the hotel room in the airport, and unfortunately.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
I've been to more countries. I can't even remember what I saw because most of it was nothing. It was a bodybuilding arena. But having said that, like I said, I think bodybuilding does afford people a lot of different opportunities to go abroad, to meet international people, and sometimes to make connections that are invaluable. But, Patrick, I wanted to showcase you here today on the show because I think you're a great rising young talent. Chris Aceto speaks very highly of you, of course, and we thought him and I thought you both should have placed a little higher. You should have placed both of those shows. So, once again, congratulations on a successful rookie season, and good luck in 2019.
All right, thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate it, man.
All right, and that's going to take us to the end of another episode of Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm Dave Palumbo. We'll see you next time.